Hello, everyone. We are live today doing our weekly YouTube video. Today's just me, and we are going to be talking about the vegan diet and the vegetarian diet. My journey through the vegan diet years and years ago, it seems like a lifetime ago that was me. And what I learned from that experience and what I see in my practice when I'm working with vegetarians and vegans, and then also what science is showing us in terms of vegan and vegetarian diets. And then we're also going to talk about these documentaries. There's been a couple out on Netflix lately that are really like raw vegan and things like that. And we're really going to kind of pull them apart and actually look at the science and look at, what they're cherry picking basically out of these few studies. So first I'm going to share my experience. So many moons ago, I was a vegan. I started that journey before I became a practitioner, before I went to school to become a practitioner, all of that good stuff. So I was a vegan for 4 years before I started school at Northwestern Health Science University to start working in functional medicine and nutrition and things of that nature. And so for those 4 years, I was really like on that vegan train. It becomes a lot of people's identity where they're really, really attached to this idea, not only as like in terms of what they eat, but in also in their morals, their values, their belief systems, things of that nature. Like I love animals. I'm very compassionate towards animals. I don't want any harm to come to animals. I had kind of dabbled in vegetarianism like as an adolescent and as a teenager and things of that nature. And then, in through my early 20s, just kind of like got on that vegan train. And so with that, it did definitely become like, I'm doing this because of my health, and I'm also doing it because of the planet, and I'm also doing it because I love animals, which are all valid reasons to do anything. But what I noticed and what I tried to push into the back of my mind, because I wanted so desperately to believe that this was like beneficial to me in a health way, is that I started to feel worse than I'd ever felt in my entire life. I retained a lot of fluid. I was just kind of like puffy. Like if I look back at pictures of myself, I was like, man, I was protein deficient. Like I've just carried that like puffiness with me. I was so tired all the time. Like 2:00 came and I was like, I'm ready for bed. I took a ton of supplements to kind of just like fill the gaps of the diet, like B12, and I took a thyroid supplement, and I took digestive enzymes and probiotics and iron and, all these other things. It's like, well, I should be getting this from my food, and my thyroid started to act up. It actually like swell up, became very swollen. And that was kind of scary. I had to have like a biopsy and, all these things to figure out what was going on. My thyroid numbers were really low. So I started to take supplements for that. And, it was just kind of like an onslaught of issues. My digestion was a mess. I developed like a mast cell, like a histamine disorder that took me a long time to recover from, where I would just like itch like crazy and have high levels of anxiety and things like that at night. Like it was like almost impossible to sleep because what was going on in the ecosystem of my gut. Like my gut was just so unhappy. And for some context, like there's vegans that are eating, all these, animal based, like meat based substitutes, or the meat based substitutes and things like that. And there's like junk food vegetarians and vegans and things like that, where they're just eating like tons and tons of processed food. That was not me. I was gluten free. I was soy free. I soaked my own beans. I sprouted my own beans and grains. I made everything from scratch. Like it was a ton of vegetables, a ton of fruit, a ton of legumes that I got from the local co-op and all of these things, and everything was organic and all of that. And so I was eating like a healthy, vegan vegetarian diet, but I felt awful. Especially those 4 years leading into when I started school. I just felt awful. And I was convinced that I could like navigate my way through it and, do more research and take more supplements and, all that. And then when I started school, still vegan, I started to really dive into diet from like a healing perspective, and from the perspective of like what humans are supposed to eat, how our ancestors ate, like all these other things. And it was kind of like lifting the veil off. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been reading propaganda. Like, this is not good, And so I started to, it took me about a year to really come to terms with it. And by that time I was already, working with a few clients and stuff like that as I was still going to school and things of that nature. And I really had to eat crow and admit, to the clients that I was working with at that time, I'm sorry, like, I am no longer vegan. I'm not, pushing this diet anymore. These are the reasons. This is what I've learned. And that was really hard because, it was a really big change in my identity, like going from vegan, like back to a person that was not only eating meat, but like really a huge advocate for, getting good quality animal protein into your diet and how to do that. And so, there was a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety around that, thinking like, oh man, like people are just going to think that I don't know what I'm talking about. People are going to be like, what the heck are you doing? Like, we've been, listening to you and following your instruction and all this. And so it was really stressful. And, now that I've been a practitioner for 17, almost 18 years now, kind of looking back at it, I'm like, thank God that happened at the beginning of my career and not like halfway through my career or something like that. Because there's a lot of advocates that are, huge in social media and things like that are really pushing that vegetarian and vegan diet. And a lot of them actually don't live that lifestyle. They used to, they don't anymore because they've, learned how unsustainable it is and how detrimental it is to their health. But they've been preaching it to the masses, have hundreds or thousands of followers. And it's really hard to like give up that, that image of yourself that you've created. And it's hard to backpedal and be like, sorry, I was wrong, like in a big way. So I'm really grateful that happened at the beginning of my career and not like the very, very beginning of my career, not, further into it. So that was kind of my journey through veganism. Now, when I introduced meat back in, I had come to kind of a position or a crossroads with my health. And I was like, I can't continue like this. Like, I just knew intuitively that I needed to add meat back in. So I started to think about, when did I feel my best? And it all landed on when I was eating, a lot of fruits, vegetables, a lot of meat, like basically doing paleo before paleo was a thing. I was like, I felt great then. I've always been an athlete, and then it was easier for me to put on muscle mass. As a vegan, I felt like I had lost a lot of muscle mass and I was just puffy. And so I decided to go back to that. And I remember the first day that I ate chicken after not eating meat for 5 years. I baked a bunch of this chicken and I was like, I'm probably going to get nauseous. It's probably going to be really scary. Like, I was really nervous going into it. And I ate like a few ounces of a chicken breast that I had baked in the oven. And it was like a switch in my brain flipped. And I was like, yes, this is what I need. And from then on, all I could think about was eating meat. I need to eat meat. I need to eat meat now. for a few months, I was like, I'm only going to eat poultry and fish. I'm not going to introduce in anything bigger than a turkey. Like, that's my line. I'm not eating cows or, anything like that. And then a friend of mine, some of my friends were getting married, and we were at their like pre-wedding dinner. It was a very small wedding. So we were at a restaurant in Vermont, and we each order, whatever we're going to have. I ordered like salmon or something like that. And my friend sitting across from me had ordered a steak. And when they brought that steak out, it was like it was consuming me, like the smell of this steak. And I was like, oh my God, that smells so good. And she just kind of like laughs and chuckles, and she's like, do you want to try some? And I was like, no, that's okay. And then I just couldn't get over it. I was like, it was like this primal thing in me where I was like, I need this steak. And so she's like, here you go. And just gave me like a little bite of it. I ate that one bite of steak. And when the server came back over, I was like, I need that steak. Here's my fish. I'll take a steak. The biggest one you have. That's what I want. And then, since then, steak has been my favorite thing. So it was just kind of learning to listen to my body again, which is one of the things that I talk to with my clients and teach my clients to do all the time. You have these ideas about how things should be, what you think that you should be like, and what you think, you should be eating and things like that. And a lot of it is just influence by outside sources and media. It's good to do your research. It's good to dive into things and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like, intuitively listen to your body. And so when I finally decided to do that, that's when I started to see radical changes in my health. Thyroid issues went away. All the puffiness went away. I was able to gain muscle mass, which if you've seen any of my workout videos or anything like that, you will know that there's plenty of that going on. So my energy level went back to normal. I was eventually able to work through that mast cell and histamine intolerance issue and get that under control, balance out the ecosystem of my gut, just cleared my mind, just feel good and feel better in my body. And so it really, in the beginning, very, very beginning of my career, when I made this switch and it was so scary, now it's just like a huge talking point. And it really helps me as a practitioner to be able to say like, hey, I know what that feels like. I came from that space. You can still turn your health around and things like that. When I work with vegetarians and vegans now, when they come to me, that's fine. Like, let's see what your panels say. Let's see what your panels say about your body. And then we'll go from there. We'll make decisions from there. And every single time, myself included, when I first did my, food sensitivity panel as a vegan and things like that, leaky gut syndrome, huge. The inflammation in the gut is just rampant in vegans and vegetarians. And a lot of that comes from the fact that you're eating all of these foods that contain something called anti-nutrients and other compounds that like bind the nutrients that are in that food from being absorbed and utilized by the body. And that's very irritating to the gut. So there's a lot of food sensitivities, irritation and inflammation in the gut, which leads to ecosystem imbalance within the gut, which leads to infections in the gut, which leads to, all these other issues. The other thing is that your thyroid, your hormones, like all of your glands really need protein and fat to thrive. And they need a high quality protein and fat to thrive. So animal protein is best for that. It's easier for your body to break down and digest. It is, a complete protein. So a lot of people, with the vegetarian and vegan movement will talk about like combining different types of grains and plant-based proteins and stuff like that to get that complete protein. In animal-based protein, you already have that. You don't have to work so hard to like piecemeal things together. And even in that piecemealing, you're not breaking that down. You're not utilizing that protein the way that our bodies are designed to. We're designed to eat meat. people have been, hunting animals since the beginning of time, and then using that entire animal, from the glands and the organs to the meat and the blood and the skins and the, everything. Like, that is how we honor that animal, is by using that entire animal. And now, if it's not wild game, like doing, farming practices and stuff like that, that are regenerative and restorative and things like that, so that we're not, torturing these animals and things like that, like we see in conventional farming and things of that nature. So we need that full, complete protein. So let's talk about like some of these documentaries and stuff like that that we are seeing on like Netflix and things of that nature. So there's one that's called "You Are What You Eat," which is actually sponsored by Beyond Meat. And if you don't know what Beyond Meat is a meat substitute that's made out of plant-based ingredients. It's highly processed, highly inflammatory, has all kinds of just like natural, like nasty byproducts and all this just like yucky inflammatory seed oils and things like that in it that we do not want to be putting into our body. How anybody thinks that is better than actually eating a naturally occurring protein source is beyond me. So that documentary is sponsored by Beyond Meat. So that kind of gives you insight right then and there to the agenda of the documentary. They have a doctor in the documentary that is kind of known for, he's in a few different vegan, vegetarian documentaries, and he's kind of known for kind of bending the truth and flat out lying about facts and studies and things of that nature. So in the documentary, they talk about how the vegan group at the end of the 8-week study, so they had two groups. This is the vegan group, and then this is the group that can eat animal products and basically eat whatever they want. So which isn't a really good control, because then you're just showing the standard American diet, which is pure trash, against a vegan diet anyway. Like, it should be more of what I would do in a study if it was me. Here's our vegan control group. We're eating plant-based, and we're eating, non-processed foods that are all plant-based and things of that nature. And then here's our, animal-based group, where they're eating animal meats, they're eating fruits and vegetables and non-processed, unprocessed foods in that genre kind of thing. So you have two diets that are not processed, one being vegan, one being animal-based, and, then compare, instead of here's a vegan group and then here's this free-for-all group over here. So the vegan group ate 200 calories a day less than the control group. Okay. So naturally they lost a little bit of weight, which will come with, most people whenever you do calorie restriction. And then they also noted in the documentary that the vegans had a lower LDL score. And LDL is part of your cholesterol. It's kind of made out to be a little bit of a demon, and, talked about in a negative way in terms of heart health and stuff like that, even though there's a lot of studies that are coming out now that are kind of showing the contrary, which is a whole different topic. But so they really like rode this train of LDL is lower, they lost more weight, therefore the vegan diet is the superior diet, it's the healthier diet. But if you actually read the study and look at all of the factors in that study, the control group, the group that was allowed to eat animal products, their HDL, which is the happy or the good cholesterol, went up. Their triglycerides went down. And overall, they just felt better. Where the vegan group, pretty much everybody that was in that group was like, yeah, I feel like crap. I'm not continuing with this diet at the end of the study. So, the study was kind of a fluff study to begin with. Like they didn't really look at a lot of different scientific factors and things of that nature. But what they did look at showed that, you know, the non-vegan group fared way better than the vegan group. The other thing is when you look at the body composition in the study, they talk about that, but in the documentary, they do not. They just talk about pounds lost. The vegan group lost muscle mass, where the other group lost fat mass or even gained a little bit of muscle, but their weight stayed relatively the same. So it's not really all about the scale weight now, is it? It's about body composition. And, you know, are you skinny fat, or are you just, you know, are you having a healthy body composition? So we have to kind of dive into, whenever we're unfortunately like seeing different information on social media or reading it in a fluff study or something like that, we have to kind of go back to source. Who sponsored this study? Who sponsored this documentary? Like, what's the actual agenda? Is this non-biased information, or is this fluff propaganda, you know, kind of thing? So I really encourage you to do your due diligence and dive into that. Yeah. So the other thing is that a lot of people have concerns about the environment and, you know, farm animals' impact on the environment, on, you know, the well-being of the animals in and of themselves, which I'm a huge fan of diving into both of those things because they are equally important. Like, we need to take care of our environment. This is our home. This is our ecosystem. And we also need to take care of animals because it's inhumane not to. And, you know, I have a lot of empathy for animals. I do not eat conventionally raised animals. I talk to my clients about the importance of eating pasture raised, grass fed, happy animals, because you eat what your food eats. So if my food is eating corn and soy and being pumped full of antibiotics and steroids and, you know, all these other medications and things like that to make sure that they don't die before they get to slaughter, because these animals are so sick and so full of cancer in these conventional farms. Yuck. Like, that's not good. We don't want that. And their stress levels, their stress hormones are so high. You eat that, you acquire that. So we want to make sure that we're eating animals that are grass-fed, pasture-raised. Get it at the local farmers market. Ask how they raise their animals. Ask how they, you know, feed their animals and things of that nature. And if they're like really proud and they want to tell you all the information, and we do this and we love our animals and we do that, and, you know, all these good things, then, you know, you found someone that you can trust. You can also get like regenerative meat at some grocery stores like Sprouts and Whole Foods and things of that nature as well, which is where they're, you know, really taking into consideration the animal's impact on the land, and also what the animal experiences and what they eat, their impact on our health. And kind of going back to some primal practices where you can find like heart and liver ground up into your pound of ground beef or bison or venison or whatever it is, which is great because then you're getting those traditional healing foods, those organ meats, without having to like cook liver or heart or something like that. Like, you'll never know it's there. So, you know, we want to make sure that we're sourcing our animal products responsibly, is basically what I'm getting to, and taking into consideration like another living being is giving their life to nourish your body and being grateful for that. In terms of the environment, and a lot of people have a lot of concerns about, you know, the cows and they're tooting and things of that nature, and, you know, the CO2s that are being put off into the atmosphere and things of that nature. That's all really, really heavy into conventionally farmed animals. If we go back into restorative, regenerative farming, where you're rotating the herds so that they're, you know, getting their adequate nutrition and they're grazing on different types of plant matter and things like that, then their ecosystem is nice and healthy. So then when they poop, then that's actually fertilizing the land, which is going to create more bugs and worms and things like that, that further, like ingrain that good stuff into the earth. Like this is all, like Mother Nature is so brilliant. Like this is all natural design, so the cow eats the grass and it poops out all that nitrogen, which further nourishes the soil. And then the worms and the bugs and everything just create this healthy, happy ecosystem so that healthier plants can grow and the cycle continues and so on and so forth. So we want to make sure that we're rotating crops, we're rotating the livestock so that the soil doesn't become depleted and just stripped of everything that it needs. And we can most definitely like restore the land and make the earth happy and healthy again, and have healthy animals and enough food for everyone to go around. If we just, return to a way that honors the earth and just nature in general, and in the way that things are designed to be in nature. So, the concerns about animals' impact on the earth is valid in terms of conventionally farmed animals and things like that. Like that's not good for the earth for sure. So if we kind of go back to more of these primitive practices, which will help also with, kind of tilling the earth and things of that nature, well, I'll be a lot better off and happier and healthier. So I have some resources below this video, a couple of things that you can read, a couple of things that you can watch, that will just kind of dive a little bit deeper into this topic specifically. But I hope that this has been informative for you. If you would like to request a free consultation with me, you can go to my website at ErinThole.com. You can also just email me at thole.erin@gmail.com and set up that free phone consultation. I'm a location independent practitioner. I work with clients all over the country to really just help them to get to the root cause of their health conditions and concerns. We do a lot of functional medicine panels to help us find that root cause and really dive into what is you. So if you're looking for help with that, some guidance, just reach out, let me know. I hope that you enjoyed this little video, and I'll talk to you later.